everybody, my name is Kiahonfire and welcome back to Conan Exiles. Today we're going to be looking at golem crafting and what you can do all about these little friends right here. So you get several different types. You get iron, you get stone, you get the crystalline, and they're all called guardians. But you can give them different attachments, such as having a torch head, which is the radium gem head. You can give them a lightning rod head. You can give them an explosive jar head, and you can also give them different bodies, like the tar body. So you can find different parts to make them drip tar. You can set this on fire. And then you can also have the brimstone ones that are really smoky and they give out acidic burns. So there you go. And not only that, you can give them several different weapon types. So you can give them mauls, axes, scythes and swords. And they're going to help with different farming or just with attacking. If you want to actually find the recipes and learn them, you need to go to the new Mechamosis Spire, which is right here. So you go there, and then you go and talk to this guy in the corner. Oh wow, great time for a sandstorm, right? Anyway, talk to him. So you got a choice of learning or purchasing different parts from him, but they are extremely expensive. And currently right now, finding blood crystals is actually really quite difficult, unless they make this better in the full release. But we will see. Anyway, 200 blood crystals is quite a lot, considering the rarity of the things you kill for them crystals. So I would go about an alternative way of doing it, because it's a lot more efficient. But you go to him to learn your blueprints either way. So when it comes to finding the parts for these guardians, what you want to do is go dungeon diving. Now the best dungeons I found to find the parts is actually the wine cellar and the warmaker's one. But currently, from what I've seen, the wine cellar is the best one of the lot. You can also get it in other dungeons, such as King Scourge's dungeon. I had no luck in the water dungeon, but definitely wine cellar. And this is because you can get the parts in chests, and the wine cellar dungeon has a lot of chests. So if you know where there is a lot of chests in the wine cellar dungeon, make sure you go for it thoroughly, and you should end up with quite a few parts to your disposal. Not only that, I found like the skeleton bosses in there have a chance to drop it as well. It is not guaranteed in chests or the skeleton bosses. In Warmakers, I didn't find them as much, but I have found them in the rooms with the giant kings. So if you go and look in the chests in there, you can get some parts. And then in King Scourge's, I found my first one of my parts, and my only one of my parts I've found in that dungeon so far, in the back room where you go and get the key for the door. So you can go in there and grab that key, and then go further and go and grab that chest. Anyway, those are the places to get the actual parts. Highly recommend wine cellars, by the way. I would definitely farm that a lot to get these parts. If you didn't want to go that route and you wanted to buy the actual guardian parts, you would need to go and find blood crystals out in the wild. This can be done by learning sorcery and using the resource detection spell. So you're going into the corruption section and you want to cast this spell. Focus on rare resources in natural world and revealing nearby deposits. That's the one you want to use, and it should give you vision to find them. Now what you're looking for is very specific. It glows red and it looks like it's deep rooted into the ground, so it's very recognizable amongst the other stuff. It doesn't really look like any other resource you find in that mode. So it's red and long, and that's the same for both the normal tree root golem you find, and it is the same for the blood rock nose that you also find. They both look the same underground. Once you find them, all you need to do is go over the top of where they're hidden and they will pop out the ground, and then you can go about killing them and then harvesting them for the bloodstones. I just used a normal pickaxe for mine, and that seemed to give me quite a bit. So let me know what you think and use what you want. You could also try just like a normal pickaxe. For me, they've been extremely hard to find. I've traversed the entire map. The only places I've found them so far is usually in areas where you would usually suspect rock noses to spawn. So you could go in that area where the mountaineer is and find one. That's where I found one. Or you could go to the volcano, and I found one there. So hopefully you'll find some there too. Now you've got your parts and all of that good stuff, you can now go to the table where you can see different parts to craft. and you're going to see you're going to need different bits and bobs. So again, for some of these parts you're actually going to need blood crystals to make them, so it is going to be expensive either way. And then the other parts, like if you want to make specific heads and stuff, you're going to need different ingredients for that. The brimstone stuff mainly just uses brimstone, and it's prerequisite, so you need like a normal iron golem head, which again is going to use blood crystal. Most of these will use blood crystal to make them, and then it will use the part and the extra stuff to have a special bit, but that's pretty much it. And you should be able to make all the arms as well. All it tends to take is a hardened steel part, like a weapon, to make the parts in the arms. And this differs depending on what you use. So the iron ones will use steel, and if you do the stone ones, they will tend to use iron swords and stuff like that. So that's what you'll need to make those. So let's have a look at some of these part options we have here. We have the sword arm, scythe arm, maul arm, and the axe arm. Depending on which ones you use for this, it's going to depend what kind of job it does for you. So we pick them up and you can see what they do. So it will tell you the abilities. Harvest corpses with the sword arm, and it will tell you the damage on the side as well. So depending on what part you use will depend on the damage as well. So let's have a look. If I got a sword arm out of all the different types, it would give me different things. So if I was to put a crystalline one in, you see I can get more damage from that, but it still does harvesting. And then the iron one gets a little less damage, but it's better than the stone one. So depending on which one you find depends what job it does. Having a look at the axe arm, you can see this harvest lumber for you. And then if we take that out and have a look at the maul arm, you can see that harvest metal for you. So you could probably get things like star metal and normal metal and all sorts out of that. Scythe arm is going to be foliage, so you can get plants using this, so maybe good for aloe harvesting. But that's what the different arms will farm for you, so you can use them as farming companions, or you can pretty much use them to fight with, and they will do pretty well with different weapons as well. Looking into the special heads, we have the radium head, we have the lotus burner chest, and the lightning head, and our explo head. Let's have a look at these different special parts you can get. So the explo head does what it says on the tin. It is an embedded explosive jar. When the guardian dies, it will detonate upon death, and there will be a massive explosion. Now you have the lightning rod head. So if someone's doing a sorcery spell, the lightning spell, or this actually might be useful in the new dungeon where he does the lightning spell on you, use this head and it will take the lightning for you. So that might be useful for PvP encounters. Now we're looking at the only chest that is special in the game, which is the Lotus Burner chest. I have found one of these in the wine cellar in particular, so definitely worth looking at. And this will burn lotus flowers as incense. We'll look at this a bit more in a minute, because it is amazing, this. You really, really want this if you can find it. And then we'll look at the radium gem head, and it's pretty much just a light bulb, so it illuminates the area, and it's the area in front of it, not all around it. Now let's have a look at what the different effects do. Let's have a look at the brimstone parts. So let's pop these in, shall we? So we have a brimstone head. As you can see, leaves behind volatile clouds of gas. You can see it gives armor and health. Then we're going to put in the leg. It gives me slightly more armor and health, because I've put a better part on it. It does the same thing. I'll do it again, it increases it some more, and I'll put the torso in. And what the torso is when it comes down to these things is the inventory size. So if you put a crystalline guardian torso in, it's 15 inventory. If you put iron, it's 10. And I believe the stone is 5 inventory size. So this is going to really matter if you want to use this for farming. You want a crystalline, ideally, body torso, so you get a lot of inventory. But yeah, the more parts you add, the better armor you get. And if they're all crystalline, it's going to be the best armor you can get and the best health. But either way, brimstone coating, it leaves clouds of gas. And the tar one, you can set the tar on fire, and you know, drip drop drips it everywhere. So it's pretty handy that way. Anyway, let's get crafting a golem. So let's use this guardian chest right here. Let's find some other bits, shall we? You can mix these all up, by the way. As you probably noticed here, I've put stone parts and crystalline parts on this guy. It's the same with this, so it doesn't really matter. You don't have to have all stone, all iron, all crystalline. You can mix and match. They're basically your Barbie dolls, like, you know. You can do anything you like with them. But you must have a farming arm. You can't have 2 empty arms. So let me grab a farming arm. I'm going to use the scythe arm because I quite like the scythe arm. And let's put this together. So bang, bang, bang. Put the legs in. You can see what it does. Harvest foliage. Has pretty good health. Is a lotus burner. Let's give it a nice head as well. We'll give it just the normal crystalline guardian head. And boom. There we go. Quite nice health, armor, inventory size, etc. You're going to notice with the Lotus Burner one, it only gives you 10 instead of 15. So, depending on if you have special parts or not, it can affect it. So let's now make this a reality and bring him back. Just as a side note as well, if you do take these into combat, you can't repair, you can't heal these guys. So if they do take damage, that's it. And if they die, and you can't get any parts back. So you have to make a completely new one if you lose one. But as long as you do enough dungeons, it should be fine. Either way, our dude is out here. He's looking awesome. Love it. So here we go. He's following me along. Come along now, sir. He's got the Lotus Burner chest, and he's looking good. One reason you really want the Lotus chest is because it gives you passive buffs whilst having this guy around. If you use the powder, it will give you a better effect. If you use the flower, it gives you a slightly weaker effect. But if I put this into his inventory, he will go and burn it. And in a minute, when I let me just take creative mode off, you can see incense, purple, lotus flower. Now if we go into our stats, you can see having this around increases my armor by 75. Now that's only with flowers. What if I used a powder, which it should consume pretty much as soon as you pop it in there. And there we go, purple lotus powder. It will tell you if you're using a powder or a flower. And you can see this increases my armor by 150. So that is incredible. And this is going to be really useful for people who are fully corrupted as well and use sorcery. So there you go. So lotus flower is armor. And if you use the flower, it is weaker. If you use the powder, it's stronger. I'd use the powder because all you got to do is stick the flowers in a grinder. That's that easy for a better buff. Let's have a look at something that's slightly harder to get. And again, you can get a lot of grey lotus actually in the wine cellar dungeon. So you might as well use this. There we go. He has consumed it. Look at the stats. And you can see this gives us a 20% increase to our strength and agility weapon damage. So that's a really good one as well. And I really understand why they've done this on grey lotus. So it's harder to get, but it would be a nice one to have because a 20% bonus is really, really good for your damage. Next, we're popping golden lotus powder and see what that does. Golden lotus powder, what does this do? It pretty much gives us 2 points of healing every 2 seconds. So it's going to really help you with healing in battle. So this is a really nice bonus as well. I do quite like this one. Golden lotus, not so easy to get on exiled lands because you have to go quite a trek to go and get them down the volcano. But if you're on Scepter, they are very easy to get. Popping in the Crimson Lotus powder now. Let's see what this one does. Alright, it's switched over to the Crimson. Let's have a look. This periodically cleanses bleed and poison effects, which is insane. This will be really useful, most likely for PvP, I can imagine. Or just going into fights you know you're going to get poisoned and bled a lot. Let's stick the Black Lotus powder in now. It's switched over, so we have a look at stats. Gaining corruption over time. So if you wanted to gain corruption, you didn't want to go to the unnamed city to do it or have corruption brews, all you can do is just smoke some Black Lotus and that will do the job for you. And finally, we put in the Frost Lotus powder to see what that does. It just switched over to it, so let's have a look. This increases stamina recovery, so this is one I'd probably like using as well. When you know you're fully kitted out and you're in heavy, you're going to use a lot more stamina when attacking and all of that. So if you can have something that aids your stamina recovery, that is going to be really, really good for you as well. Either way, that is the Lotus Burner, and it's very, very handy. And again, if you want to see the extra stats here, you go into the actual inventory to see it. If you want to make them farm stuff, all you pretty much do is give them something to farm. So you go into their inventory and you're like, hey, I want aloe. Do it. He's now going to go up to the aloe and farm it. I was trying to make them do emotes earlier and he's finally doing it. Oh, wow. Okay, so he decides when he wants to do it. I did try and make them do the, these kind of emotes. Oh, it works! It works, it works, it works. Okay. So yeah, if you want your if you want your iron golem to do things like this around the base for you, that's a possibility as well. Yeah. Anyway, let's get this rhino involved, see if he wants some fun. Right, he wants me. Let's see if our golems and guardians can do any good. I think I'm just going to call them guardians if I can. There we go, and they're at it. Let's see if they can do any good. There we go, we can see them a bit better now. So he's losing health quite bad. We can see the, look at this going on here. Noxious gas. Our brimstone guy is working and poisoning him. Yep, you can see it on the rhino when it happens. Our stone guardian's actually getting beaten up pretty bad. See, it slows me as well, that gas is pretty bad. So using that in a PvP scenario would be really, really good for you. These guys around the back seem to be doing good. He's illuminating his bum. But the stone ones are definitely suffering. So you can see he's doing it now. But they're keeping up pretty good, and they're doing a decent amount of damage against the rhino. All of them. And of course, if I had the companion buffs on my attributes, then this would make them even better as well. But yep, that's pretty much what there is to know about these little friends, and if you can get the better armor ones, they will definitely help you out. Don't recommend for bosses really, because as you can see, this guy got beaten up pretty good by that rhino. Wasn't really doing much damage to it either. It was taking a while. So probably just best to have double companions, so you have something doing the damage and have something doing the buff, and bring them along and do whatever else you want with them. They definitely won't replace thralls, because healing is a big part of it and you won't be able to do that, but they will definitely be a handy dandy companion to have around and a lot of fun. So this is my guide on the Guardians. I hope this helps you out. Thank you for watching, I love you, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye!